stop giving women unsolicited guidance, right? Stop giving them unsolicited guidance. Stop trying to hold women accountable, right? Because a lot of what goes on when a man is trying to hold a woman accountable, she's not taking the situation that seriously. She doesn't respect you, or she decided she's lost respect for you, or she decided that's not what she wants anymore, right? And what you have to understand is that there's a difference between taxing and coercion or begging, right? What you have to understand is that unsolicited guidance to a woman comes off as if you're begging. It comes off as if you're trying to pressure her. It's the daddy versus father effect, right? In order for a woman to be feminine and submissive with you, she has to respect you, right? Which means she views your strength from a standpoint of leadership and not from a standpoint as a challenge. There's a difference between being a leader and a challenge, right? So if you're a challenge, then she's going to think about what she can do in her own knowledge and power in order to try to break you, or to break your will and your resolve to do things the way you intended on doing things. Or she's trying to figure out how to use the Delilah syndrome to see a moment of weakness so she can get the emotional validation of an emotional reaction, right? She may be attempting to figure out how she can manipulate you into getting what she wants through stroking your ego, right? The bait and switch. That's a challenge. But with the leader, there is a challenge within the leadership itself, but you're not a man who is making himself such a challenge to where a woman has to figure out on her own. Now, there's a certain level of her figuring it out on her own, right? Some of that's going to be game. Some of it, a lot of women have a certain natural level of game, but that's not always natural level of game of being integrated. It depends on where her mindset is, where her head is, where she is emotionally, mentally, how integrated she is, right? Some of it's going to have to do with her desire and respect level, right? But something to understand is this. It's respect and desire. Good dick and guidance. There's no substitute for good dick and guidance, right? So when you're giving a woman unsolicited advice, unsolicited guidance, first thing you need to recognize about good dick and guidance is neither the dick nor the guidance are free. Not that there's a physical price on it. It might be. But it's more so about showing desire and showing respect. This is not only for you, but also for her. Because if you're giving her guidance and she doesn't respect you, then she may just be duplicitous with the things that you tell her, or she may not have the energy to do those things, or she's not going to be able to appreciate the wisdom that you share with her in the first place. Right? And that's what makes you feel like a father versus a daddy. See, daddy is the man that a woman runs to. That's her oasis. That's her safe space. That is where she feels protected. That is where she has the focal point of her desire, the place where she receives some of, if not the highest level of validation from. So it's about a quality of validation, not necessarily a quantity of validation. Right? And what that quality of validation does, when it's mixed with the pleasure and it's mixed with leadership skills, it creates submissiveness, because that's where penis power comes in a positive way, right? Because there's a difference between negative penis power or toxic dick, or low vibrational penis power, and high vibrational penis power. It's two different things, right? They have some things in common, but they're two different things. It's the difference between the leader and the challenge. But unsolicited guidance from a man, it feels like pressure. It feels like coercion. It feels like begging. It feels like butthurt. It feels like you can't control your emotions. feels like you don't respect yourself. It feels like you don't require a woman to respect you, but that you're trying to convince her and convince yourself that you require a woman to respect you by trying to force her to do it. Unsolicited guidance is a big problem. And there are several ways it can pop up. One example of unsolicited guidance may be, let's say you are newly red pilled, right? See, I'm not somebody who's going to be 100% against the red pill, because when you go from being prematurely integrated, which means that you're going to project an unrealistic idealization of a woman onto her, onto women in general, and then expect them to meet up to those standards of having a certain level of moral qualities and to be a certain level of sexually reserved, or that when she says she doesn't want to do something, or that when she says she doesn't want to do something, it's because she has morals, or if she says she does want to do something, that she has the willingness and ability to fully follow through with it, and that she's not going to back out of it, then you're projecting an unrealistic idealization of women onto women, right? Now, in order to break that unrealistic over-idealization of women, you're oftentimes going to have to be exposed to the negative aspects of female nature, right? To the sexual shadow. But you're also probably going to have to be exposed to women who you view as not that type of girl, being that type of girl, so you recognize it's not a Madonna whore complex to where some women act like that and some women don't. There are always exceptions, but most of the time, a woman's going to behave with you based off of how she feels about you, whether she's a good woman or not, right? Whether she has a capacity to be a good woman or not. So one example of unsolicited guidance would be, let's say you're on a dating app, right? And you tell a woman, text me a picture for your contacts and your toes, right? Some people say that's weird. I've gotten plenty of women like that. They not be my first message, but before I give a woman some dick, she has to show desire and respect. So I might throw her a curveball and see if she's interested enough to follow instructions without them being explained to her, right? Neither dick nor guidance are free. So part of the price for dick is to show desire, right? Desire to do the things you want to do, a certain level of femininity and submissiveness. It doesn't have to be a super high level, but it's some level of that, right? So when you give a woman instructions and she follows them, she is showing on a smaller level that she would be receptive to your guidance, your leadership. Then, when she asks questions, you can give her some guidance, some leadership, tell her, put her on game, tell her something that's going to improve some level of quality of her life. Even if it's only her sexual experiences. When it comes to dick, you want to leverage yourself in a way where you have sexual power in that scenario, if your goal is to be a masculine dominant man. So you want to be relatively upfront about your sexual intentions. But you're not just offering her dick as if your dick is just cheap and free and easy and anybody can get it. She has to do something for it. So one thing I might do, or not might do, I definitely do, I don't have sex with women who don't suck dick. So I might tell a woman to come through, suck some dick, might give you a foot rub or something like that, and without any context of reciprocation. The reciprocation might just be a foot rub because I have a foot fetish, right? So I might invite a woman to say, hey, come suck some dick, right? Or before that, I might use a little motif in the conversation, plant a seed in her mind to where she starts to think about what it's going to taste like, what it's going to feel like in her mouth, what it's going to be like in her throat. She might see me with some pineapple juice or something like that, and she's like, man, I wonder if his nut tastes good, right? I might play on her ego as far as her skills a little bit. Give her a little bit of challenge, see what she, see what level she's on. But even when she suck a dick, I'm going to give her, I'm going to let her do her own thing a little bit at first. And then give her instructions based off of what my preferences are. And teach her what I like. And I do that very early on. Right? And what you do when you're doing that different type of thing is you are putting a woman in a position where in order to receive the validation, she has to follow instructions. Right? Show initiative and follow instructions, but it's mostly about following instructions. Because when the validation that she receives is only about the initiative that she shows and not about the actual instructions and leadership that you give her, then it may be a dominant woman. Right? So one thing I might do is she might suck the dick. I'm like, all right, that's cool. You know what I mean? But I'm not really going to give her my orgasm because that's validation. When she gives pleasure, that's validation that she's receiving for the pleasure that she's giving. But when she connects that validation to the instructions that you give her, that's leadership. That's guidance. So when she does what I tell her to do, to give me an orgasm, right? Then she receives the validation of maybe my moans or groans. She does a very good job, my body might shake. She gonna feel it jump in her mouth. She might see she might learn how to deep throat. She might feel a little bit of pre-com. She's gonna start to think about and get wrapped up in the intrinsic reward of that experience. And then from that place, I'm taking her to the next level as far as her skills and abilities. And then after she works for it, see, the challenge is through the leadership. After she works for that nut, I'm not going to give it to her too quick. But after she works for it, then she gets that nut. And then when she see, I'm a shooter. So when that motherfucker starts exploding, trying to blow a hole in the back of her head, right? And she feels that explosion, that's dominance. It's expressed as dominance. The fact that it can shoot like that. Then that's going to give her this rush of validation that floods her, that gets mixed with the fact that she's already aroused. And then I let her sit with that and be a little bit frustrated. I'm not even gonna fuck her the first time, right? She's followed instructions, let it build up. That's the primer principle, right? Letting it build up. But after I let it build up, and she does that once, maybe twice, many times as necessary, then I know that she's fully aroused, she's fully ready, and she intrinsically desires and enjoys sucking the dick. So when I slide it in there, she's going to be coming real easy. It's pleasure denial, right? But when you're having a conversation with the woman, sometimes you get in touch with the red pill, you start learning a little bit of game. And when you start learning a little bit of game and you want to implement some of these things that I talk about, a woman will be masculine submissive with you. There may be other things she wants from you, and she may be sexually reserved to the point where her ego is too invested in doing things the way she wants to do it. So then you just might not nut. You might tell her, get up off of it. I'm good, right? Or she may be caught up on the idea of being immediately reciprocated. So she's like, well, if I'm sucking dick, are you eating pussy? Nah, baby girl, I ain't doing that this first time. You got to work for that. You ain't even got to the point where I'm willing to fuck you yet. Why am I eating your pussy? And that's a quick way to weed out women who ain't submissive. That's a quick way to weed out women who ain't feminine submissive with you. Because a masculine submissive woman will do what you say, but only with the immediate idea of reciprocation involved within that dynamic. Right? So she might be willing to suck your dick, but you got to eat some pussy first. Right? And And that's more so equals. That takes out some of the dominant aspect, the pleasure denial, that building up of anticipation. Because the dominant is the primary giver of pleasure, primary receiver of control. Sometimes there's a certain level of preparation that goes into building up the pleasure that she's going to receive. So that's the control. That's the pleasure denial. So although she's giving you pleasure, you're establishing control so that you can elevate the level of pleasure that she's going to experience. But sometimes a woman will say, well, I want to get to know you first more. And you're going to be like, man, but there's these experiences I'm trying to give you, and I can't give you these experiences if you don't do what I say first. And then that comes off as begging, because you're not willing to walk away when she's not willing to do what you want. Some women are going to just walk away. But some women are going to turn right back around and say, no, I was just joking. I didn't mean it like that. I'll come. See, that's not holding a woman accountable. That's allowing her to hold herself accountable if she really wants you. She may just be testing to see, because you're saying something outside of the box, and she wants to see if you're really the type of man you're presenting yourself as. And trying to force it when she doesn't want it isn't going to make her want it more. It's going to make her feel unsafe. Right? So if you drop down a level on Brody's scale of sexual attraction and the way that you approach a woman and how you approach a sexual scenario, right? Because you got the 5 to 10 level. If you approach her on an 8 and then you drop down to a 7, a woman's often going to lose respect for you, right? But if you approach her on a 9, you drop down to an 8, she might lose respect for you. So that 8 level may be, well, I'll come through and I have sex with you, but I ain't trying to suck dick. That could be an 8 level of sexual attraction, because she still wants the dick without you investing first, but she's not on that 9 level, right? She's not on that 9 level. So you have to know what level you're willing to start on and how much you value yourself, how attractive and desirable you believe you are. You present yourself the way you view yourself, and don't deal with women who can't pick that up, right? But what you have to understand is that if you try to jump up a level of aggression because she isn't receptive to a lower level, that's the 9-7 dichotomy, right? So you may think it's a 9 level, which is she actively desires it, but so you're not being direct and blunt and dominant about how you're conveying your intentions and your desires, right? And you think, okay, yeah, I'm playing it cool. Yeah, she want me, but then she really don't. It could be a 7 level where she wants you to make her comfortable first. So if it's a 7 level, then you jump up to an 8, then now she feels unsafe. You thought you was on some 9 shit, right? But it's unsolicited guidance. Another example is this. Let's say a woman agrees to fuck with you. She says this is what she wants to do. She swears it with her heart, cross her heart, swear, hope to die. Pinky promise. And then she switches up, starts fucking with other niggas. Or she switch it up, she cheats on you. Right? That's if you're in a relationship. Oftentimes when she switches up, it's because she already, she did something or you did something where she was able to devalue your guidance and your leadership skills and to lose respect for you. Or she's encountered someone who gave her a higher feeling of desire in that moment, right? Or presented himself as the full package. So now in this moment, her primary focus of desire is shifted to somewhere else. So even if you've been a masculine dominant, even if you've been dominating a situation, now she's going to be less receptive. Now, in that particular moment, it's not for you to try to reclaim the spot that you previously had, because she's already dropped down in how she views you and how she wants to interact with you. In that point, you walk away, right? And if she returns to the situation wanting to reclaim her spot, you demote her, you tax her, or you walk away and then you never to look back. But if you decide to take her back, you tax her, which means she has to do more than what she was doing before, right? And by her doing more than she was doing before, you revving up how kinky the situation is, but without giving her the same level of, she has to work her way back up to the dick. You might have her suck some more dick. You might fuck her in the throat. You might take her out behind a dumpster. You might fuck her in a room with other people there while they watching. It steps up the kinkiness. And then you go from her realizing, you know what, I do respect this man, I do want to fuck with him. But then you jump back up into the place of being the primary place of her desires. Then you go back into being daddy. Right? But that's only if you want to deal with that type of woman. Not every man cut for that. But there's ways of dealing with those situations. Like, let's say you have a wife. You might have been complacent. But if you catch the woman cheating and now you're trying to grill her, right? Now you're trying to do all this. Now you're trying to argue with a woman. Arguing with a woman is feminine. Even if it's good advice, even if it's good arguments that are logical, that are consistent, that make sense. The fact that you're not willing to simply walk away at a level of disrespect that's high enough for you to lose control of your emotions, she loses respect for you. Because she views it as insecure, because you're willing to deal with the woman who doesn't respect you enough to behave accordingly to what she knows the situation is. That's why demoting and taxing are powerful things. But you can't go to a woman to tax her when she's misbehaving. She has to come to you. Simple. Because especially if you're taxing a woman in a sexual way, you have to catch your hand in the cookie jar first. Right? Now, most of the time, it's not worth even doing all that. But there's a way of doing it. But when you're taxing a woman, she has to come to you and realize that she fucked up. And when she comes to you and realizes she fucks up, then you raise the price. If she wants to get back into even a lower position of dealing with you than she previously was. Something to understand. So you don't negotiate. If she's doing what you say, then you start to, the more she does what you say, the more guidance you give her, the more leadership you give her. And the more leadership you give her, the more she follows your leadership, the more you can include things that benefit her into your plan. And you could even have your program set up to where those things are just naturally ingrained into your program. Guidance ain't free. She got to follow instructions without explanation before you're going to, and you might do it on a smaller level, but most of the time, when a woman wants an explanation of why you want things to be the way they are, before she listens to you, she understands she's taking a risk that you may walk away. Now, you also have to understand that there is a difference between plausible deniability and a lack of game. Some women, they lack game, but if she's been dealing with you long enough to be your woman, she should be laced with enough game to know when she's fucking up. Situational awareness. Some women, they do it consciously and some women do it unconsciously, playing with plausible deniability about what they're doing so that when they get into a situation that conflicts with the agreement of your relationship dynamic, that she cannot take accountability for it because she's not an accountable woman. She's not a woman of character or integrity. So that's like if that's your woman and she wants to go spend time alone with her ex, right? Or she is doing certain things that are disrespectful, right? And your gut's gonna feel when it's one of those type of things. You can try to gaslight yourself and say that it's insecure to care. Certain things, you just walk away. And she might come back around if she realizes she fucked up. But to blow up a woman's phone when she's with another man, oftentimes it's going to annoy a woman. She's going to get frustrated. She's like, why won't this nigga let me go suck this dick in peace? Right? Now, sometimes if it's a woman who just has a certain lack of experience and game, she may not know she's really getting finessed. A part of her knows, but she may not be fully conscious to it. So you got a choice. Either you can play the ounce prevention is worth a pound of cure game and risk the perception of your insecurity, which is being in tune with the situational awareness, Risk that coming off as insecurity, making the other guy taboo, making the desire and lust even stronger because it feels wrong. So it's easier for her to tap into her sexual shadow. Or when you see something that feels off, you just pull away from her. Or you let her know, like, all right, cool. You can go. You can do it. You can do what you want to do. You single. You're a single woman, right? And that could seem like a bait and switch backwards type of situation, but it's true. You can let a woman know, hey, you can do what you want to do. Listen, you can do whatever you want to do as a single woman. You just can't do it with me. You can't do it and have the benefits of my leadership and my guidance around. Because what you have to understand is good dick and guidance. So if she takes your dick off the pedestal, your guidance is going to feel like a father figure. Not a daddy, but a father figure who's pushing moral standards and boundaries onto her that she does not respect and that contradict what her true desires and interests are. And then it's going to cause confliction within herself. And she's often going to choose to rebel against that to try to get back another level of autonomy, agency, and independence. Because it feels like you're impeding on her autonomy. So sometimes it's best to just walk away. When shit's off, she come back around, then you tax her if the situation was disrespectful. And if you go to the woman to tax her, then she will act as if she may feel like you coerced her. Even if your relationship dynamic was already a dom-sub dynamic. Even if you were already the type of dude who should do something, you tell her, no, this is what you got to do right here to fuck with me again. Right? You catch her hand in the cookie jar. You let her know what the real is. And she said, okay, yeah, daddy. And then she go ahead and do it. And she proves that she want to fuck with you. Once she makes up in her mind she don't want to fuck with you, and then you go after her to try to get her to make it up to you, it's going to feel like coercion. So a same woman who could have been a submissive for you may then tell people that you're trying to pressure her for sex or that you're begging her for sex. And if she's a toxic woman, she may flip on you. Right? So you got to understand what unsolicited guidance is. You want to avoid that. Avoid giving a woman unsolicited guidance. Because guidance isn't free. Let her fuck up her life if that's what she wants to do. But like I said, there's some women who just lack a certain level of game. You take responsibility that you didn't teach her better. You let her know what the boundaries are, but you should have let her know that ahead of time. And there's a rare woman who will listen and say, you know what, I understand that this is wrong. I didn't see it. It's like sometimes a woman may not see it. Like let's say it's something as simple as like talking to one of her exes on Facebook or talking to one of her exes in the comments on Facebook. She may not see how that's disrespectful. She may say, oh yeah, I knew he wanted to fuck me, but this is just Facebook. She may just want a little validation. But you could have a situation where that dude to say, you better stop commenting on my stuff on Facebook. You're going to get fucked. And she's like, okay, cool. You know what? I realize you were right. Or she may be like, I didn't realize there's anything wrong with talking to this dude online. But then the dude gets sexual and she's like, okay, yeah, he tried to get sexual with me, so I realized I was wrong. Some women, they don't understand when they're being an attention whore because their cup is low. So they don't recognize that if you are an attention whore, you may whore for attention. Like some women don't understand that the games you play with beta males, there are some dudes who will pander and pretend to be that, but they know how to pour enough validation in there to flip it and just wait for you to have an opportunity to lapse in your judgment, to lapse in your consciousness, your awareness of the situation, and for her to find an excuse to tap into that. So if she tries to be an attention whore with the man that she's sexually attracted to, he may use the bait and switch game on her, and then he gonna fuck her as soon as y'all have an argument. So when she has those orbiters like that. So there's some women who lack that part of the game and understanding. And once they observe it, then you let them know and she's honest with you and open with it. And then when she knows, she'll leave it alone. There's a rare woman like that, but most women aren't like that. Most women are going to feel like you're insecure for even knowing about it or caring about it in the first place. So some of it's just about putting your woman on game. because the taboo is going to make the orgasm even stronger. That's the toxic dick. That's it adds to the challenge. It adds to the allure. It adds to the excitement, the anticipation, because now it's a situation where there's a challenge involved, right? When it feels wrong, it makes it feel that much better. It's a guilty pleasure. If you stop being your woman's sexual guilty pleasure, then your guidance is going to feel unsolicited, right? So you got to understand what unsolicited guidance is. You got to understand that. If you don't understand what that is, then you're going to think like these dudes who complain about women online, trying to hold women accountable. You can't hold a woman accountable who don't respect you. And if she respects you, she's going to hold herself accountable to a certain extent, because she's afraid of losing you. Once a woman isn't afraid of losing you, then trying to hold her accountable is trying to save a woman who don't want to be saved. Let that bitch be for the streets. That's where she belongs. And she probably gonna bump her head, deal with a weak dude, deal with a duplicitous dude who's just gonna use his dick game to fuck her life up, send her on weird spiritual journeys, right? Where she might start becoming a sage burner or a Topanga or a no limit soldier. A no limit soldier, that's where she gonna get to after she's had enough good dick from dudes who didn't have good leadership skills, to where she has to guard herself emotionally from the sex, where she builds up her emotional tolerance. And that's good for a woman dealing with multiple men. But if a woman is dealing with one man, and the one man she's dealing with at a time is a man who can teach her something, then she's in a good spot. So it doesn't benefit her to separate the sex from emotions in that way, in that type of scenario. But there are scenarios where it is beneficial. But that's the no limit soldier. Got to understand the gentleman gigolo complex. The gigolo only has the good dick. The gentleman he may not have the guidance. He may just have the validation, but he may have a certain level of stability in his life that he brings into her life, a certain level of emotional security, social security, financial security. You want to be the excitement guy. But not only the excitement guy, but a guy who can use that excitement to add another level of motivation, because it's about that mix between the sexual pleasure, the validation, and the direction that comes with it. If it's not all three, then that submissiveness is not going to connect together. So it may just be a bait and switch type of situation. It may not last. So just understand these things. Like when it comes to the sexual polarity quadrant, when it comes to dealing with women, stop trying to hold women accountable. You know, if she fucks up, she got to come back to you to get it right. And there may be times where, let's say you're married, you might run a little bit of feminine dominant game at times where you feel like it's necessary, because maybe she's been out the game so long she don't recognize when somebody running game on her. But you got to understand the risk that comes with it. If she already made up in her mind that's what she wants to do, then she gonna go even harder, because you bothering her when she wants to do what she wants to do in peace. So this is Coach Brody. Stop trying to hold women accountable. Daddy versus father effect. Unsolicited guidance. I'm out.